LOL, white America, assassinate my character. Money matrimony, yeah, they tryna break the marriage up. Who gon' act phony, who gon' try to embarrass you? I'ma need a day off, I think I call Ferris up. Bueller had a Mueller, but I switched it for
Ooh, yeah, episode 7, Daily Dose, Tell Your Truth. This is actually going to be, I'm obviously the host, but Taj may lead this one off because we got some Wyoming roots today. Jay, Ray, thank you for coming in. Appreciate you for coming in.
Yes, sir.
Well, he actually came into the gym today. So I'm sitting there working out one of my clients and I look underneath the Iron Bear and then I'm like, is that who I think it is? He said, what's up, man? I said, oh, shit. So I have not seen this gentleman, what, 15 years, Dodge? 16 years? 15 years?
Probably 2013.
So 2013, that's when I was at Wyoming and he was at Wyoming.
12, yeah.
12?
Yeah, 2012 was my last year there. Yeah.
And you were a DB coach that year? What were you?
Whiteouts, Coach Whiteouts.
Okay, so he's a whiteout coach for Wyoming. So this actually ties in very good to actually have Taj back in the podcast because he was able to come up, see the gym today, surprisingly, and think just our growth from where we started and when we were basically living together, volunteering our lives away.
That's
and
right.
now look at where life has taken us. So on this episode, that's how we get down. So we usually take a shot of tequila, like I told you. We're not going to do a tequila shot. I'm going to have Taj do the honors. Taj, go ahead and give this intro of these this supplement brand that we created and the water that was used to make this brand in this mix.
We, as you know, are a family-run business, and we have grown and grown and grown, and we have got to our own supplement company, Congo Subs. So we have a pre-workout and a post-workout and a creatine, and we'll soon have more on the way. The water you have in hand is a close friend ours that has developed his own water company because of how bad water was.
Right.
So it's just a collab we like to do with Congo Sups and Benjamin Blue Water. What do you have? Is that our amino?
That's the Warrior Fruit Punch.
All right, so this is a amino acid plus hydration. So you're gonna
Just
have
what I need.
your electrolytes.
That's
all
right.
That. So we're gonna take we call this Congo Warrior. This is our Warrior shot of fruit punch. And Jason Ray, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, yes, sir.
Man.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Want that real-time taste test.
This is what I'm talking about. I would purchase this. I need this.
Insert link.
I've seen. Yeah, that's right. Insert link. I've seen this on socials.
Okay.
And I was curious about that. I love y'all's entrepreneurial spirit, man. You
Yeah,
guys
I guess that's kind of, the first thing I want to go to is like, I don't know what you've paid attention to us. I know you've called, we've messaged, and I don't know what you know. Some guys still have social media and follow me, and some don't. So I guess what have you seen from us? And then we'll do a quick background of you, your coaching tree, and how our stars align.
Yeah, so I guess Luke Anderson is the one that pretty much set it off. He told me that you guys are doing big things down here in Houston. I was kind of anti-social media there for a while. I've recently kind of tried to kick my socials off a little bit more effectively, just with the line of work I'm in now. But I started following y'all, started seeing the activity, seeing the fitness, seeing what you guys are doing in the community and the following just on social media. Happened to be in town for work, knew you guys were right around the corner. So I was like, I pop up. That's what I do. Sometimes I just pop up unannounced and typically good things happen. Like this pod happening, just being able to break bread with people, see y'all. We got the shot.
Also, this is a spot on podcast. So we weren't going to do one this weekend. So I was going to be out of a show, and then you popped in. So this worked out perfect because we didn't have a show this week. So thank you for blessing us.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the invite. And so showing up and seeing y'all right when I walked into the gym, first off, I asked one of y'all's clients, whomever, friend, he was walking out. And I said, man, how was your workout? He's like, man, they got after me. It was great. I said, what's up with Taj? How's he doing? He said, he's doing great. I said, what's he doing? He said, he's in there yelling at people. He's getting after people as usual. Right when I walk in the front doors, instant energy, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like ready to work out. I just finished my workout, but I was like, these guys have a culture. It feels good in here. It feels welcoming. I love the entrance sign there. I love everything about it. And so really I hadn't seen much other than just a couple clips of you guys doing your thing. I know you're getting some mileage in. You guys are running. You got the family workouts going too, which I try to incorporate, but I wanted to see it live. And so that's why I just wanted to just bum rush you guys and just show up.
No, we appreciate that. And that you seeing it live shows that it's not fake, it's pure authenticity. And we always have pride in when someone like you walks in to like show our baby, show our toys. So that was cool to us. I guess give a quick background. Coach Ray, Jason Ray, me and him coached together at Wyoming. I was literally a intern and worked my way up, and he was one of the guys that helped me along the way. And he was a guy where we both had the same mentor, Coach Christensen, who we had a failed podcast attempt with.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah, this will spur that one to come back.
I gotta chime this one with full to Aaron's defense here. He said he could do it, but we never done a virtual podcast. I said we're growing. We don't have GoPros anymore. We got a camera. We got some mics. Yeah, we got a dope chair, by the way. This is a new chair. If you didn't notice on this episode, we don't have a name for the chair, but it might be extra, but I'm extra. And I like skulls and I like freaking horsepower, not hybrid. So anyways, we tried doing the Coach C. We had some great jams. We got to catch up.
Right.
And what ultimately happened, Aaron? You didn't get the whole last recording or the audio?
Yeah, this whole Zoom recording died. My old laptop died. It was just a whole nightmare.
So here I am, my chance with Coach C to show him all the stuff that we learned and done.
Right.
And here we are, piss poor freaking performance because we had piss poor preparation. I'm like, God damn it, man.
Promoting his book.
Yeah, that's good.
And
Well, you gotta get back on it for him. He'll jump back on.
So we got to get him in here. We got to get him some speaking engagements here, which I know we can. But sorry about that, Coach.
Yes. So we had the same mentor, and Jay Ray was the position coach, and I was the intern trying to make my way up to the position coach. But go ahead, give a quick background. I know you played for Coach C. Give us all that real quick.
Yeah, very quick. Coach C recruited me out of Broken Arrow High School. He was pretty much one of my fifth offer coming out of high school. And I went up there for a couple visits, a couple game days, and I fell in love with Columbia and decided that was the place I was going to play. So I've known him forever, essentially since my junior year in high school. He and Mrs. C, they're like family to me, his 3 kids, and I played for him up there from 2003 to 2007. And then, like you, he's a mentor for me, and I was working for Mizzou in 2008 football season, and he just randomly called me into his office and said he's going to be a head coach next season, which would be the 2009 season. I want you to come with me. And ironically enough, my brother played at Wyoming. So these Wyoming ties, these 307 ties run deep. So my brother was there. One of the jobs that Coach C told me he was interviewing for was Wyoming. It was vacant. I had just gone to the game it was Vegas, and they got beat, my brother's last game. And the comment was made that Coach Glenn was going to be fired.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about the coaching, carousel. I was just a former player trying to get into admin. And then when I got back to Columbia, Coach brought me into his office and said, hey, Wyoming's one of the schools. And if I get that job, I want to take you with me. So I ended up in Laramie. He hired me, coached there through 4 seasons, my longest tenured job in 13 seasons. Which that's crazy. Your first job, that's the longest job you have. That's just the coaching world. Then I left there. I loved it there. Met you guys, saw kind of y'all start, and just trying to cut my teeth in the world, man. Young coach, not really understanding the ins and outs of whether it be recruiting, all the meetings we were involved in, the prep, but the attention to detail, the things that Coach taught us, I took that with me for the rest of my career. And so I ended up at Oklahoma State in 2013 to 14. Gundy cut me free literally 30 minutes before a staff meeting. And so I was at 9 through 12 in Laramie. Coach Gundy gave me a great opportunity to coach inside receivers there. I'm back home in my home state, meet my wife there. And then he did not want to have 2 receivers coaches.
Yeah.
And so, which is cool. That's the business. And he just kind of said, hey, man, you're still under contract. We'll make sure your contract's all good, but I got to cut you free. And he helped me with a couple of job interviews that didn't go down. And I ended up in Northern Iowa in 2015. Was up there for 1 season, got some mountain, some Missouri Valley work, and that's a great conference. And the idea was continue to stay on the field. That again, Coach C said, while you have a job, it's easier to get another job. Yeah. So don't sit out a season just because you're getting paid. Continue to work, perfect your craft, have your room. I have mixed feelings on that now, what I know now, because, there's some off the field gigs that are really good. that are still available out there. But I ended up leaving that place after a season to go to Missouri State, where I worked for a guy that was our linebackers coach at Missouri, Dave Steckel. And that was really a move to get close to my wife because she was living in Tulsa at the time. So I didn't live with my wife for 3 seasons. And the 2015 season, the 2016 season, she moves up in 17. We have our first kid in Springfield. I moved to Fargo, North Dakota in 2018, leave Courtney in Springfield because he had a good job, a good career. So I was like, I'm not going to displace her dreams. So let's just see what happens. And then what happened was I get a gig at Kansas State in 2019. So I coached wideouts 2019, 2020. We get the family back together. We had twins there in Manhattan, Kansas. And then 2021, I coached the wideouts. And then I got out after the 21 season. I was under contract with Kansas State then. I say I got out. I basically chose not to get back in, but me and the OC got let go after 21, a shift in the staff. And then I moved back home to Oklahoma. We run cows. We're figuring it out, trying to just live like the normal family life to some degree. And basically I've stayed out ever since. I stayed connected with athletes in different ways, but man, it was just kind of, the journey was Coach C really setting the thing off, giving me an opportunity.
That's freaking good to even know your story, because I don't even know, like, I know of you and I know the story, and I was at Wyoming, but this is like an opportunity. I think I have his book. Boom, right there, man.
Yeah.
I'll pub that one too for him.
Yeah,
right
pub
here.
that, man.
Pub that thing.
All right, you're 4th down. Why you need to go for it? No, this is a book that we attempted a podcast to help promote, but it's our mentor, Dave Christensen, and you can read this book, and there's literally stories from you, from me in here, and he explains like a lot of the principles we have in terms of like attention to detail and all those things we preach, and we transfer over to the Congo gym, and you see in the supplements and the brand. So like people think sometimes like the football world's not relatable. Like everything we've learned relates to our current day, how we operate, how we do things. And just like he's doing his current life is like a lot of those principles are still there. And we owe it all to Coach C and the stuff he taught us and bringing us all together in the small town of Laramie, Wyoming. Well, I guess go ahead. What do you do now? Exactly why you're here and stuff like that too.
Yeah. So
I'm gonna get into the nitty gritty of Wyoming after that.
Yeah, you have to. So again, that book, pick it up. Coach, a lot of great principles in that book, and so yeah, there it is. Why you need to go for it? You're 4th down. So Coach C's doing some big things in that, and so make sure you guys check that one out. But what I do now, I teach financial literacy and education. So everything is full circle, man. There's no mistakes. Me rolling into the gym this morning, that was not a mistake. Sitting here, getting this invite to do the pod is great. And so what ended up happening was when I got out of coaching, I'm just kind of hanging out back home in Oklahoma. We wanted an exit strategy from coaching, essentially, because even some of my mentors told me when I first got in, they were like, hey, look, a lot of good coaches are getting out. This is in 2009 that people are telling me that there's some coaches that are getting out of the business. This is pre NIL, portal, all the things that are going on right now with ball. So coaches know what they're getting into, right, as they go through their career. And having some good mentors, they basically told me just be myself. I asked my receivers coach, Andy Hill, when I was leaving Missouri, I said, what advice would you give me? He gave me no tips on recruiting. He gave me no tips on, scheme, nothing. He just said, J-Ray, be yourself. As I started to coach, I realized how important that is. Like, be authentic, don't sacrifice your integrity, be who you are. And so as I got involved in financial literacy and education, 2 players from Kansas State hit me up when I was back home in Oklahoma. Exit strategy was the other advice you given, whether it would be real estate. I didn't pursue any of those types of things. Like, what else am I going to do besides coach ball? Yeah. We have transferable skills. As you guys know, the training we got with different things, the business you guys are building, it's transferable skills from what you learned in Laramie, and so a lot of coaches will sell themselves short, not thinking they can do something 100%. Entrepreneurial and all those things. Man, we got skills, and so I ended up basically just kind of figuring it out back home in Oklahoma. And a kid named Logan Long, who played O-line for us at Kansas State, and a kid named Jake Huggins, who was a fullback for me my last year, 2021. I coached tight ends fullbacks. They called me and were like, hey, coach, we have a job opportunity for you. And you got to think these kids are 24, 23 at the time, and they're saying they got a job for me. So they flipped it on top of its head. Normally players would hit me up, hey, coach, I put you down on my resume.
Yeah.
Expect this phone call from this company. They're going to want to talk to you about me. Can you put in a good word? These cats hit me up talking about, coach, we have a job for you. And lo and behold, I'm in financial services. I didn't know any of the details of this thing. I just knew they said I could work with business owners, families, student athletes, and teach financial literacy and education. When they told me the athlete part, I said, I'm in.
Yeah.
Because at Mizzou, I got this book called The Richest Man in Babylon, my last year there. And one of the principles in the book says, pay yourself first. And so I evaluated my whole college career and I realized I had paid myself $0.
Yeah.
Right? I spent my money on rent, spent my money on food, and going to the movies. That's pretty much what I spent my money on throughout my college career. I didn't put any money back for myself or my future self. So that book set that mindset up for me. I called Coach C. Hey, coach, I got to save money, man. I said, I've saved $0 this whole time I've been here. And he put me at that time with an advisor that I started actually putting $50 a month aside. And then that became $100 a month when I was living in a frat house, basically making sure those kids didn't like tear the house up. They paid me some money a month and I was making $8 an hour working for Mizzou. So I realized that if you start early with savings and have discipline, just like your sport, just like your craft, there's no different than your financial discipline. Sometimes we call it financial fitness, financial well-being, all these different strategies we use because oftentimes none of this stuff is taught in school. Yeah. Basic principles of how money works. So that kind of got me going. And then when these guys called me, they had that copy of the book, The Richest Man in Babylon, like on their shelf. And I was like, that's it, man. Right there. I'm with y'all. So they trained me. I got licensed, took some exams, and I'm down in Houston now. I got an opportunity to go over to Rice University and just kind of share some of this knowledge, share some of this wisdom that I've been getting in my training, from our company. So our company's called Synergy Financial Partners, and we teach financial literacy and education, do financial planning, and really try to help people understand how money works.
That's so important, especially I bet you with the NIL stuff now because I don't even know what these guys are doing with the money.
Yeah, it's that's what we have to. That's what we have to try to find out. What are you doing?
No way that these guys are being advised how to properly save that money and put the money away. And what story is that? Colorado, wherever they get pulling up in Lamborghini. No, Austin at
Texas.
UT, pulling up in Lamborghinis and Ferraris.
Yeah. Probably not the best investment for your future. But at the end of the day, right, I mean, we tell people you got to have balance, right? And I was a little naive to what some of these kids are making. Because ultimately we educate first. That's the foundation. And then we have different steps that we'll teach and coach. And then we have to do a financial blueprint. I look at it like doing like a financial plan. When we're giving our players our tips and reminders, that Thursday or that Friday, or we're covering their test. It's no different than setting up a plan that you would in football, but it's just basically your financial plan. So it's almost like going to the financial doctor and getting a financial physical. So once we educate, we do the financial physical, and it could be a kid that's making $50,000 a year. It could be a kid making $500,000 a year, maybe in the excess of millions of dollars. What you do with your money is most important. It doesn't matter how much you earn. It's really how much you keep, right? How much you keep. And really for me, the light bulb flickering moment was pay yourself first. And I try to use those terms with young people, with even some older people. I mean, there's people in their 60s that they didn't do anything in their 50s or 40s or 30s or their 20s. And I've had comments of clients say, I can't financially retire.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's sad, man. You know what I'm saying? Because you work all your life, but yet for whatever reason, you weren't taught a couple different things to create discipline. And you look at young people, like you're saying, man, it's crazy what, there's taxes involved. There's all kinds of stuff involved. It's a complex topic, but we have to make it simple.
Gotcha.
So Paul Pierce was on that, was Shannon Sharp? Was it Paul Pierce and Shannon Sharp? No.
It's probably him and KG's.
It was just recently. I think I might have been Club Shay Shay, to be honest. But Paul Pierce was talking about how he had, his first go around in NBA was like a $20 million check, but then that gets cut in half.
Right.
So there's $10 million. And then after that, you got your agents.
Mm-hmm.
That gets cut 2 to 5%, depending on what that is. Boom. That cuts down. And then you got to take care of moms, take care of the family. Boom. That cuts down.
Yeah.
And now you got to go stunt a little bit in the NBA, pop bottle, boom, that goes. And then he said he
Right.
ended up with only 200 grand or 20 grand left in his account, and he needed it. That's when he realized, like, yo, I gotta make this money and extend my contracts, and
Right.
get some endorsements and do stuff with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reading a book right now. And one of the things it talks about in this book is that you can't earn your way to wealth. And that's a prime example of it. Like a high earner, right? Professional athletes. And there's lots, a laundry list of people who have made a lot of money in athletics. Let's just kind of stay in that topic. And they're bankrupt. So they didn't earn themselves to wealth. You have to be able to save, invest, and compound your money to wealth. And that's truly it, man. I mean, you got to think about yourself today and then your future self, right? When you're in your 50s and 60s, did you start putting money towards that person? Because I want to turn around and hopefully help some of these young people and anybody I come in contact with this information, and that their future self, if they could look at their past self, be like, hey, I appreciate you for doing that. You started with $100 a month, and then as you made more money, you went up to 500. You went up to $1,000, and then you started basically taking your talents, doing different things. I mean, especially for entrepreneurs, we teach entrepreneurship too. Yeah. That's how those players reached out to me. Gotcha. They're going through a college program that our company puts on called the YES program, which is Young Entrepreneur System. And so they were basically tasked with, who do you know that you want to help with their money, or who do you know that would like this topic? They thought about me. So through the internship program, they called me, and through that program, we teach them how to become an entrepreneur through the financial services industry. Yeah. So it's pretty clean, man. It's just such a good topic, and we want to normalize people talking about money.
Yeah.
Right? Most people are taught, don't talk about money.
Yeah.
You know, it's taboo. But if you want your money to grow, and if you want to make it be productive for you, you got to talk about it in the context of growing and producing wealth.
That's what I think. I've sent you a couple clips. I think Jay Williams has really, from Duke, the basketball player, just recently he went on a route of social media, of teaching the financial part, and he's very valid, or like transparent, and he's spitting facts, and he's helped me entrepreneur wise with like things to do with your car and taxes, and like he spits game on how to make these athletes like, hey, it's not that cool to do this. How about you do this?
Right.
Like, he's just real. And I think he's a good follow for all those people out there, of like not seeing someone so like stressing you out with like facts and nerd type stuff. But he's like, he keeps it real and simple for you. But I think if we can get more people on platforms like that to help the youth, and even, you know, guys like us who are entrepreneurs, I want to, you know, find ways to keep our kids and families and generations, you know, wealthy, is very important. So that's why I love that you're on that avenue now, and it's definitely something I see you doing and continue to doing. So
no, I appreciate that.
When was it that you, because we don't ever get to talk, me and him don't talk like this. When was it that you started like gotten in the whole savings and I got to make compound interest, and when did that all kind of get divulged into that?
That didn't happen until our business started, basically, because me as a GA and intern, I was making so little, so my thought wasn't how do I make it grow. I was like, how do I eat versus that. And then you think about, you know, our mom and dad, and like, you know, they like you said, were hard workers, but they weren't taught the ways to save and grow. Right. And they're in those same predicaments now, and they're 60s, like they can't retire, but they got to keep working.
Right.
So I think kind of trying to break that mold. And then once we started the business, and then once my wife got pregnant, I was like, okay,
it's go time.
Kids are the biggest thing that'll tell you, like, I got to provide for the next generation. And then that's why we developed like the supplement company, because we are realistic and we know that, you know, we could train the way we do for X amount of years, but we need to find channels of revenue and, you know, mailbox money type things.
That's
like
right.
That. So that was just the big thing for us.
Yeah. See, I was fortunate at the time when I moved here, 2013, I was training Arian Foster and Andre Johnson, these guys, but I was obviously closer to Arian, and then Arian put me with his finance guy. I was like, dude, how do you make money grow? What is this? What are you talking about? So at the time, I'm still uneducated, but I set up a Roth IRA from Vanguard. I was 23. And he was just like, all right, man, just go ahead and put $50 a month. And this is when I wasn't making barely
That's
any
what's
money.
up.
It's like, so where I got this from Wyoming too, but like my dedication when I first moved here was the same level of, I'm going to show you when I was an intern at Wyoming that I'm going to be the best at this. I'm going to work my ass off at this, and nobody's going to beat me at what I do. I got an apartment right next to the gym. That was a 5-minute walk, a little bike ride. So I never
Right.
drove my truck. So I saved on gas. My truck was paid for, thankfully, by my parents at the time. I was able to make those payments. And then, so I had no car payment, and 5 minutes away, and food I got free because we had to deal with Snap Kitchen.
That's what's up. That's good, man.
So I didn't have any cost on food unless I wanted to splurge. And this is at 23. Clothes were kind of taken care of because we was a startup business and they were giving me clothes, and I had my own stuff. So only thing I really ever spent money on was on LeBron's. No. So it started out at $50 a month, and then I started making more money, and everything I did, I saved. I didn't spend anything.
Right.
And then I turned 50 to 200 to maybe like 500. And I think that was the highest I ever went. I kept it at 5. And then when he made his way to Houston and we were doing our thing here, when things didn't work out at the space I was at, because of that money that I started with, by the grace of God, when the investors and all of our deals didn't fall through and we were left hanging. And one of the deals was, hey guys, the people that were going to donate this money to you now want to know about ownership and equity. And we were thrown off by that. Like, wait, what? Because I trained so many guys X
Right.
amount of years for free.
Right.
And these guys were Pro Bowlers, like made it to the Super Bowl, like all this stuff. So there was a group of people that wanted to be like, hey, let's give back to these guys.
Yeah.
These guys
That's
busting
good.
their ass. They need a gym. Let's put it in together. So we go in this meeting and then we get hit with that. We're like, what? So then like, well, you probably have to lawyer up and get legal terms right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, that's gonna cost a lot of money. And I think it was like 12 grand or something after we created that pamphlet for all to get this business proposal to them,
Right.
$12,000. And again, he didn't have much because they just came from Utah, right? It was Utah. And
That's right.
so I looked in that account. I never even opened that account. And when I looked at it, what I had, and that money I was able to make, pay for the lawyer fees.
Yeah, he took the big risk.
Right.
Literally, I think I had after that, I had like $500 left in my bank account.
Right.
And I said, if this is going to work, this is going to work.
It's gonna work.
And it didn't work, but it did. So what I want to get to is we get that lawyer, we get all the LLC written up. No one's picking up the phone. No one's answering the emails. No one's answering my text. I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck is going on? I'm like, dude, I'm getting scared because I'm like, dude, I spent all this money. Now my ass is on the line. Their ass is on the line. What is going on? And it's like this dynamic of, are we being pushy or what do we do? And I think it went on weeks. Like, couldn't even get us to like, hey, we saw your paperwork. We're going to get to you guys. Thank you guys for putting the time. It was like, what, did we fuck up the first
right,
meeting?
yeah.
Why did I take this
They
money
just
and do
straight
this?
Disappeared. for
Yeah,
a
it
bit.
disappeared.
Yeah.
So again, it's that chip on the shoulder, like what we've always had, wanting to be the best, whatever. And then by the grace of God, it all did work out because we end up using a lot of that lingo and a lot of that paperwork.
Yeah, all that forced us to start our own LLC.
Yeah.
and
Right.
it
That's
started
good.
A lot of stuff we didn't have to do at that point.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know what your religious belief is, but like that was a sign to me from God, like, look, this is the direction you're supposed to go to. Sometimes you don't know
100%.
where you're going. You're supposed to go this way. And it was like a biggest blessing. And then that's when like these guys, well, more so Sathaj and Jen, he knows Jen, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
They're more of the back end business stuff. And I put a lot of load on his shoulders because I always say, go to Taj. If you got a business question, go to Taj. You got a problem, go to Taj, even though we're partners. But I put the trust in him.
But that's a good partnership.
Yeah.
You know, you guys balance each other out, and obviously you
It's
guys.
not a power struggle.
Right.
To do it like that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and I put a lot of trust in him to be like, anything with money and finances, that's on y'all. So like, he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves, but like the gym runs and makes sure the bills are paid because of him and his wife and my sister-in-law. And it's like, that's such a load off my shoulders because I wouldn't know what to do with money, even though I just told you how I save money to get the money.
Yeah, no, for real.
But
You
I'm
started
very like point A, point B.
right.
You give me all this stuff in between, I can't read it. And
No.
fortunate enough too, we were able, like, because of these guys and their saving habits and the help that we've had from people in our gym, we were able to give bonuses every year to our employees, which is our family. And then we started another savings too for the gym for them as well, right?
Yeah, they got retirement, health insurance, benefits, all that.
That's good.
Which is something we sought out, and it's something we never had. And then for those guys to start that now, just like you said, we can keep building on that from there.
So because of that 23-year-old kid saving money, we were able to get that paperwork. So it's huge what you're doing.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And just kudos to you for doing that, because that was kind of my trajectory. Because when I was leaving Mizzou, or when I was working for Mizzou, when I read that book, The Richest Man in Babylon, I was probably 22, going on 23, just about maybe a month shy of that. And that's when I called Coach C, and same thing. That was my trajectory of $50 a month. And a little goes a long way. And that's what we try to show people through our evaluation. Like, what is your capacity to save? What are your goals? What are some things you want to get done? And then a little bit can go a long way. And then how you even mentioned like generational, like teaching. Generational wealth is built off of education. I'm already teaching my kids these things. Like, we break this stuff down to the point where I can actually teach my kids some basic principles of money, and they understand it. Right. And so, and you guys train people, you've been coaches, you guys know how to teach, you know how to put together a string of thought processes that are going to ultimately get somebody to end goal. Yeah. And so it's no different than what I'm doing right now. Our CEO, Jake's dad, Jeff Huggins, he basically told me, he's like, Coach, you're still coaching. You're just coaching in the world of finance. So it's a much more impactful topic. Not that football's not great and everything. And I love X's and O's. I love ball. I love the camaraderie of the game. But now that I'm in this world, and I still have teammates, right? Those guys that I coach, they're my team. We're building a team in just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, of different agents who are getting licensed. And so we're really trying to build something that's going to truly be impactful. And generational wealth is built through education. Because financial illiteracy is a real thing. It's affecting people every single day. And if we can educate people and empower them and then get them to execute a plan, that's the goal. Yeah. And so that's where we're at with our company. We're growing at a healthy rate. Hearing y'all's story about how you just, like, you took that risk, but you were saving. You started saving, putting money. You didn't know what it was going to be for it at the time, right? And then you took a shot, taking it out and all that stuff, and that comes with things. But you guys had a plan, and you executed it. And so our financial journey is always going to be with us our entire life. It's whether you want to basically open the door and invite it in. Because a lot of people close that door and they're like, I don't want to deal with it. Because it can be stressful. But we got to normalize talking about money. We got to, so people can actually get to a certain point. Yeah. Sometimes the answer for people when we're evaluating them is just, you got to make more money. And then we kind of teach them how to do that, in our space. I mean, you guys having the supplement company, all those things you guys are having, and then taking care of your people, man, that's huge. That's why I do what I do, because I want to put myself in a position where I can take care of my people, my family. But for you guys to have benefits plans, healthcare, setting up retirement planning for your people, man, that's awesome. Yeah. Like I'm getting fired up, man. I want to come and do a financial workshop now. We do fitness and finance stuff, different gyms and stuff. I mean, because it's a cool topic. I love it now because I like making it simple and relatable.
I know you could have helped a lot of people. Like, that's kind of what we were doing. Getting back to Wyoming, that's kind of what we were doing in college, man. Now that there's no rules, can't come for me. My boy Rob, you were Rob, right? Rob.
Rob, my guy.
And Brett Smith and Luke.
Yeah.
All those guys. Like, dude, when we were with them, like, that was the goal with them, was to keep them in a straight arrow.
That's right.
And work out. And we made them dinner. We might have gave Rob a car. Hey, it wasn't a Lambo.
That's right.
But what I want to give to is the Wyoming stuff, because that's where, like, our roots were, and that's where you started like your big coaching gig. Yeah. So I would like, this is for all you Wyoming football fans out there, because the culture shift. Wyoming wasn't, and you guys can jump in, let me know. Wyoming wasn't known for swag, filling in the seats, spread offense, scoring points. maybe some beer song and a couple Powder River letter bucks.
That's right.
Got the Brandon Wood on there. So what was that like when you first came into Laramie? Because Aaron, we're gonna need to put a bunch of Laramie pictures on the YouTube video, and understanding that role, like we're gonna have to change this whole.
Yeah, because he came in at the very beginning.
Yeah.
See, 2009.
Yeah, I was there in the beginning.
So what was that like? And you know when you have to go brown and yellow.
Yeah.
New Balance?
Yeah, it was, well, yeah, my brother, when he played there, he was there from 04 to 09, and they were New Balance and they were Reebok at one point too. I mean, at one point there was like a Reebok symbol over the New Balance symbol. And so there were some things happening in that way. And my brother had a great career there. And I went to the Vegas Bowl when they beat UCLA. I was there at that game because Mizzou, we didn't go to a bowl game that year. So I went to go see my brother in that game, and it was crazy. So that's before I even knew I was going to get into coaching, right? I still had 2 more years of college football. But I saw something special just in that one game. And then you fast forward to Coach C getting a job and bringing us there. And for me, you know, I was 23. So I was just happy to have an opportunity. And I was coaching running backs. Coach was like, hey, I want you to come with me. I said, I want to coach receivers. And he said, no, you're going to start out at running backs, or I want you to be an operations guy. Yeah. And I'm not going to name any names, but there was an operations guy that I was around, and I used to just see him getting yelled at if the eggs weren't right. You know, when I was, you know, in school, when I was playing, I'm like, I don't want to do operations. Because I just saw that, like, that was the guy that was getting kind of hammered if things were off, right? And so I said, I want to coach. And so just seeing the shift, knowing that my brother was there, hearing him talk about his time there, I knew it was a unique place. I knew it was all about, you know, the Cowboys on those Saturdays. And so we knew we could have some success there. But again, as you go through ball, day-to-day grind, you got to recruit the right players. Sometimes you got to have some magic happen, you know, that just comes out of nowhere. But you got to develop, right? The weight room and stuff. I know Trent Greener was there as our strength coach. And my brother, we hired him in the weight room in 2010, I think it was, maybe 2011. Yeah. Because I worked with him for 2 seasons. And so now you look at the facilities, you know, so there was a shift. Anytime you have a coaching change, there's going to be stuff happening, right? You know, people are going to lose jobs. People are going to be asked to leave or not to come back, or they're going to change roles. So I imagine as a head coach making some of those decisions, you got to just roll with it. I mean, you guys are the head coaches of your organization. And so there's decisions that have to be made at times, especially in the world of football, that it's like, hey, it's go time. Like, this has to get done. And I got my ear full of stuff. You know, I was in charge of signage. Yeah, you got to bring the wood on. I was the one going over to the sign shop. I had to go get the signs made right there by the stadium. There's a little sign shop over there. And then I had to bring the signs back over and get them approved. And if I had one thing off, you know, you better believe coach was going to hold me accountable to it. But we instituted a culture there. Were we perfect? Heck no. Did we win some games? Yes. Should we have won some other games? Probably. And then, you know, like I said, I had an opportunity to dip. That was, coach basically said it was a no-brainer when, you know, I got the job offer at Oklahoma State, and he was fired up for me. But we had a true family atmosphere. I don't know if you guys felt it there too, but we were a young staff. You know, Arroyo was probably in his mid-20s, right? Grinch was young. Harding, all those guys were young. Jerry Montgomery, all these guys were young, in their 30s and mid-20s. So we were tight. I mean, even Bob Waller, our trainer, we'd go over to his house and have barbecues and hang out. So that's what I remember most about just getting into it in Laramie, not only coaching ball, but really just being there with a family. Because I was single, not married, no kids. Guys' children were born in, you know, their children were born in Laramie, you know, because these were first-time fathers and, you know, guys that were just getting their start in a Division I level. That's why it was so unique, I think. And I don't even know what our records were throughout the years. I don't really remember scores, but I just remember the people. And I remember, you know, I took up snowboarding and mountain biking, and I used to go camp. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's important because, you know, I only went to Utah after, and what you said there, you take for granted, because I thought, okay, I had a great time at Wyoming. I'm going to go. I'll be there. Coach Harding was there with us. And then you find out, like, it ain't always like that. And the staff at Utah was totally different. Nobody was close. They had their own little cliques, but we didn't have the stuff you talk about. So I always thought, like, every school was like what we had. And you realize you didn't have that tight-knit group. And, like, to this day, I still talk to Wyoming coaches, and I don't really talk to anybody from Utah. I talked to Coach Sage this morning. It was crazy because I still send him plays and stuff that I like.
That's what's up.
And he said, "Fuck, I love this shit."
Yeah.
So I sent him a play that the Dolphins ran last week, and he's like, "Okay, we're going to install that this week."
That's
so
good.
You came literally like an hour later, so it was like full circle. But it just shows that community that we built there and what Coach C taught and how that family principle translates to what we do here is like with our interns and staff, like we try to do like get-togethers and things like that as much as we can.
That's good.
To instill those same principles there.
And that's what I want like to get to too, is like we talked about sacrifice, like the beginning of your story, like, you know, working and climbing that ladder, and then you not making money and working at GNC. Big shout out to Legends. This is one of our best sponsors, the best sponsor, the best clothing out there. What we got to do though is a new way to get the Legends promo for you guys out there, for all the subscribers and shares out there. There's a new link that we're going to put. Is it right here, Aaron? There's a new link that we're going to put right here specifically to get the Legends discount code. Legends was introduced by my older brother, Taj. He was actually one of the first ones to ever wear it, I feel like, and then he got me on it, and then it was DeAndre Hopkins, and thankfully, when Hop was on the podcast, he gave us the blessing of God and got us this little partnership with Legends. But it's some of the best stuff. They're doing great stuff with us at the gym, too. We got new gear at the gym, so be sure to use the code. It is a new link. It is a new everything. So scrap the old one. It don't work. And scammers, step away. One of our sponsors is Stevie Warren, your Houston real estate pro and fellow Congo warrior. Listen, you don't come to Congo for easy workouts, and you shouldn't settle for a pushover agent either. When it's time to buy or sell, you want someone who can handle the heat and fight your battles. Call Thebe. If she can survive Congo, she can handle any real estate hurdle. Save your sweat for the gym, not your real estate deal. Call Thebe Warren. Regal Pool. Summer's just better with a darn pool in your backyard. Regal Pools builds award-winning custom pools for families across Houston, made for memories, built to last, like America. Ready to get started? Call Josh at Regal Pools and tell him Dose sent you, or see their links in the show notes for more information. What were we just talking about? Oh yeah, the sacrifice.
Yeah.
And, you know, volunteering, working at GNC, the hours. So this is for like all you entrepreneurs out there. So especially this new generation. When you say you want something and you're going to do something, one, you better do it. And two, it's going to take discipline to do it. So I would like for both you guys, because you learned under Coach C, to give a day in the life of what your kind of schedule was as a coach. Okay? Because a lot of people don't understand those hours you guys put in. And referring to Coach C is, since you were talking about the signs, and if one thing was wrong, how you would get your ass ripped, or certain situations that made you uncomfortable if you cross your arms, right?
Right, that's right.
Those arms, cross your arms. Little stuff like that, because what I want the listeners to know is it comes from the top. And it's not about being an asshole or a dick, kind of sometimes, but when you have a standard and you want your machine to run like this, pop, 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 this is how it's going to have to operate from the top. So I would just like for you guys to kind of give you experience of that coaching life and really what you learned on that edge that's kind of obviously transitioned into more for entrepreneurs out there and people who just don't want to work hard. You got to work hard and detail.
You go ahead, Coach. And also, like, when he came in as a coach, he was young and trying to learn everything just as an intern would, or a GA. So I remember trying to, like, he'd ask us questions on how do I cut this film and like, insert the text on it. So like there was things that we were doing trying to teach him too at the same time.
Yeah. And that was the thing, because when I got hired, basically Coach C said, I'm going to train you. And now he trained me specifically, and it was basically on the job training. He wasn't going to sit down in my office and say, boom, 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 boom. We may have had some conversations like that. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the schedule, I mean, it's just this part of the game. I mean, you're working crazy hours, typically, once you get into the season, you're pretty much rolling. And every coach I pretty much worked for would say, right around, that July, probably 27th, when the staff reports, the players are going to report August 4th or August 6th, in that range. That first staff meeting we'd have, the coaches have always said, hey guys, hug your wife, kiss your wife, hug the kids if you got them, but you're not going to see them.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, what? And again, I'm single at the time at Wyoming, so I didn't have that issue. But you saw that the guys didn't spend much time with their spouses. Now, to alleviate some of the time away from home, I believe it was on, you remember like the meals when the wives would bring the meals? Was that on
I think
Wednesdays?
it was Wednesday or Thursday meals.
Yeah, Wednesday, Thursday meals. Maybe there was a Monday in there, but they would, a different spouse would rotate and then have basically like potluck dinner style and would help feed the staff because we were just grinding away with, cut ups, install, and all that. And then, it's a lot more going on with the portal and NIL nowadays, but even just then, a lot of it was going to be recruiting. You're just evaluating film. But during the season, it's all getting ready for the next game. When you win games, there's a relief. A lot of guys talk about, hey, we're so relieved. You celebrate the wins, but you're right on to the next. And to your point, like the standard is the standard. Even when we won games, if my guys didn't perform to the standard, because we had to critique everything to the viewers, we have to grade every single rep. That was at practice and then in the games. And at Wyoming, especially because of the detail that we put forth, we would watch every single rep, every single position in a staff meeting, even during practice. And so it'd be like, all right, Taj, how's the receivers doing on this? So he'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, go through all the receivers. All right, Pete, what is the O-line doing here? Go left guard, left tackle, left guard, center, guard, right tackle, boom. And you had to give a coaching point on every single player. Those meetings were long. Yeah. Not everybody does it like that, but that's just how Coach came up in his background. Gary Pinkel, Don James, the Nick Saban tree is in there because my head coach, Gary Pinkel, was teammates with Kent State with Nick Saban, and their coach was Don James. Don James is at Washington. That's where Coach C was associated with them. So there's a lot of that stuff that those two programs and all those programs kind of did, and a lot of it had nothing to do with X's and O's. It was all about culture and attention to detail. And so the schedules were crazy. And to Taj's point, I'll let him talk about it, is because I treated myself like a GA because those guys were giving me crap because I never GA'd, right? That's just part of it. That's just how the chips rolled. Yeah. I never GA'd. Coach gave me an opportunity. So I was like, well, I got to act like I'm a GA. I got to do GA type work. So that's why I was like, hey, y'all show me this. Because I didn't want to be that guy. It's just like, okay, I have a GA, but I don't even know what the heck is going on. Yeah. So I wanted to be taught all those different things because I didn't get that, right? And I guess it wasn't my responsibility, but I wanted
to be hanging out with us a lot of the time.
Yeah, just learning.
Yeah, and we're all the same era and learning everything. So a lot of times you felt more comfortable around us than the staff. And then to go to like what he's talking about with Coach C in those film meetings, like it's not just, yeah, Coach Rob was good here, plus, minus, plus. Coach C would see through the bullshit if you tried bullshitting through it. And he'd be like, hold on. You really think this fucker was good here? And so you had to be on your shit. And you had to be every play, like you said, coached. And just like we translate to the gym, like every rep and every detail's got to be looked at and studied. And we could have been better here and could have been better here. But that's an area where I lost sight of some coaching stuff, especially at Utah. Like we'd have huge wins, and if the receivers didn't play well, I'm getting my ass ripped. Or I'm one of the guys that coached the guy that dropped the ball before the end zone, walking into a touchdown. So we had a great game.
That's tough.
Pull that clip right there.
But
that'd be called out.
Pull that clip.
Fool. That's gonna be Congo the fool right there.
So for example, when that happened, Coach Wick ran right to me. He's like, "You allowed that. You allowed that."
That's right,
and
man.
I'm like, "Oh my God, there's no worse feeling in the world."
What they say, you're either coaching it or allowing it.
You're coaching it or allowing it. It's always what they said. And you coach every rep.
That's right.
Coach the warm up. Coach this. So a player's results is direct reflection of what we taught him. So
that's right.
Attitude reflects leadership.
Cut that clip too.
That's where when we talk about schedule, when we talk about the day-to-day, the quality of life, that's what got me out of it. That's where I was like, okay, I love the principles I was taught,
Yeah.
but I see something different for me in my life. And it was really bad at Utah because you're sitting there and you're watching the clock because on Sunday and Monday, well, Sunday was a little better, but Monday you had to be there till 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
PM.
you're a watch clock, and you don't want you
And
don't want to
Coach
do that.
C struggled
Your
with
clock.
it because Coach C was all about be efficient, get home to your family.
Yeah.
So we're like, Coach C would just be sitting there like, all right, guys, we're good. Let's just sit here and stare at this clock. And 10 o'clock hits, you wait till Coach Witt leaves, and then you leave.
Yeah.
And then you're back at 4 or 5 a.m. Because I was one of the guys that would work out. And a lot of coaches, that's where they lose their passion to exercise.
Right. Yeah. You got to maintain that. And there's so many different ways to skin a cat. Because like I said, I ended up realizing, to your point, when you left Wyoming, you see, oh, wow, there's a different way people do things.
Yeah.
And that was the same way for me. And you got to adapt and adjust, but maintain your core principles.
Yeah.
Like you can maintain the discipline and the attention to detail, because everybody says it. Everybody says family, attention to detail. It's one thing to say it, but it's another thing to actually execute and live it. Yeah. And we lived it at Wyoming, and I lived it at some other places I was at. But you do have to adapt, man, because so many different staffs operate in such a different way, especially once you leave a place that you that was your foundational like way of learning and how you got trained. And then when you get into a different place, you got to take your training and apply it to your position group. If the head guy doesn't necessarily dictate how things are done, you kind of just got to say, okay, well, he's giving me kind of free autonomy to do whatever I got to do. I got to make sure my position group is held to this standard. Yeah. And so there's times like that where that happens, but it's a crazy business. It's fun. It's wild. But, like I said, I like my ability to not be kind of tied to somebody else's clock. Right.
And I think all those principles still translate. Like he talked about is like, people don't know how much I do behind the scenes of like making sure the books are right, blah, blah, blah. My wife and I do that, but that's like being an OC. Like if I call the touchdown, I don't care to get the credit. Like that's where the football correlation is so real. Like the OC capability, or like you came up this great play. That's literally how I operate this gym. It's like, I'd rather let these other people shine and let the brand shine for itself.
Yeah.
Than, hey, he's the founder.
Yeah, because the supplements don't happen if he's not doing that role.
Right.
The next gym, I don't know if you know, we're
Yeah,
getting
he told me this morning. I did see that. I saw y'all's photos of the space and stuff. Man, like just seeing that footprint, seeing that blank canvas. I'm gonna have to take another trip down here, man. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get with U of H, come back, talk with Rice. I'm gonna make a point to make this a normal stop because I knew you guys were down here. I saw it, but when you see it in person, it's like, okay, this is for real. And then talking to the folks that are walking out of the gym, I was like, hey man, how was it? Yeah, they don't know me from anyone, right? And guys like, man, it was good, it was great, and like the energy and the juice that was coming out of there, I'm like, this is cool, man.
And that's where we as owners is like, okay, we built our own little Wyoming at the current space. We're going to a bigger space. We're going and getting all these glitz and glamours. We got to be true to that core and not lose it.
That's a good point.
And keep those foundations. And that's something I've learned in coaching and seeing guys like you and go to these different paths. Or you look at a guy like Coach Kelly at LSU, like he was so good and boom, he's fired like that. So like goes back to complacency and all the things we preach. So I want to keep preaching like the similarities or symbolism of coaching football or coaching sports and real life. So
yeah, and you mentioned too about being your authentic self.
Yeah.
And that's like this podcast, like everything you see in here, Coach, this is who we are and I am. And I think it's like a full circle moment because it's like here you are sitting, I got this signed by Rob and Brett.
Yeah.
And I told them like, well, the plan was we were all supposed to go to the league. It didn't work.
Yeah, we all were.
It didn't work, but like everything I said I was gonna do it. Like so this has meaning to me. This has meaning to me. The Wyoming, all of it like is authentic. And so when you walk in the gym, it's the same thing. And like again, full circle moment. So like to have Hop, be our client, and he was talking about how you drew up a play for Coach Sage. Like this is like the biggest love I get is like when I can send him and Andre Johnson at the time. hey man, he needs help with his routes, and here he is dissecting his routes. Man,
Yes.
he doesn't know this. He hasn't told this, and that's the fine line of where like he had to figure out, am I allowed to tell a Hall of Fame or something?
Yeah.
You
And
are.
and I think
Yeah.
that's where Dre, specifically Dre, because when Taj moved here, it was Owen Daniels, Andre Johnson,
Right.
Arian, and here this is his kind of first
Right.
Yeah.
exposure to being out of the coaching realm, doing what we're doing, but now he's got the hands on that.
Yeah.
And I think that's where pressure,
Mhm.
like with the Coach C and the standards, where I think you thrived off of. And I thought it was just cool as hell to see.
Yeah,
you
and
have
that's
that
where,
moment.
yeah.
Hop and like especially Demarius. Demarius was big on like, hey man, coach me. Like no one's ever told me.
Right.
They're scared to tell me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the crazy thing about that, so I've never coached in the league. I've been in a couple OTAs and things like that. But remember Coach Hammer, Dan Hammerschmidt.
Yeah.
So Hammer was like our first receivers coach at Wyoming.
Uh-huh.
And I was coaching running backs. Hammer and I basically became really tight. He's kind of like a father figure to me. We go to Chili's and stuff and hang out. And he was a really committed dude. Yeah, that was the spot, right, in Laramie at the time. But so we'd hang out, and he told me because he was with the Texans. You know, he was with the Texans, and I was still coaching. I can't remember where I was, but I asked him. I said, at that level, like take J.J. Watt for instance, like Hall of Famer, Pro Bowl, all that type of stuff. Whatever.
You got anybody else?
He's
Give me another name. Give me another name.
He's got pedigree, right? I was just like, well, that's the name I specifically use, right?
Give me another
Watt.
name. Okay,
So-
go.
So this is what Hammer told me. He said the best ones want to be coached. They want to know how much more can you make them better.
Yeah.
And so you kind of got to get out of your mind, like, okay, this guy, like Aaron Rodgers, whoever, it doesn't matter what who the player is. They want to be great. They want to know the people that they're around, the resources that are available to them in coaches and whatever. They want to know how can you make them incrementally better, like the great ones do. That's what Hammer told me, because I was like, how is it coaching at that level? Because I was interested in going into the NFL at one point, and he said, man, the great ones want to be great. They want to be coached. So to your point, Hop, all the guys you've been around, like they want to be better. You're saying hey, they're not being taught some things too.
Yeah.
And
A
so
lot of times at that level, these guys are making so much money and so talented that the coaches are honestly scared to tell them anything. So that was the cool part of like even Hop to this day, like he'll want to get together and watch clips and like
Mhm.
whenever we're together, hey man, what should I do better here and things like that. It's pretty cool. And every off season we work on, getting his hands better and things like
Right.
that he's not working on at practice. So
right.
I think the cool thing too with that is like now that he's out of the coaching realm, he can actually, well, not with the kids anymore, but enjoy the coach, like watching football. And then when he has like advice or something, they take it. Like for example, being around OD and Owen Daniels was with Peyton Manning, so he's getting hit. Because you guys are more of the football guys. He is getting to talk to OD about what's going on in Peyton Manning's head and the audibles and shit like that. So wasn't that cool to be able to?
Always grateful for the opportunities of where we came from, who we get to talk to, and the stories we get to hear. But one thing I want to hear from you is you saw where we were in our lives early on more than anyone out there
Yeah.
and where we got to, and we're not done, but I guess like your viewpoint on us, because we at times were not liked. We were kind of doing some things that were
Oh gosh.
like,
Were y'all not liked?
Nah, man.
No.
we were
This is-
we were breaking the mold of like we were trying to do stuff with guys like to get them better, and a lot of times like compliance and things like that get in the way where people thought we were breaking rules or doing things or pushing boundaries, when in the end we were just trying to like push guys for greatness. And
Mhm.
I think you from that aspect could see that we were a little different and we had things bigger on the horizon.
Right.
But I'd be interesting to hear what you'd say on that.
And
Remarks.
to piggyback on that too, it was more of, to give you a vision of that, was more of like, even with me, like I'm just an intern, right? And every hour I had, I dedicated to that team.
Right.
And I remember sitting down with, Coach Cotterman, and he said, well, son, if this is the route you want to make money in, you're on the wrong place. And at that moment in time, like that was my Michael Jordan moment. I said, okay, it became personal to me.
That's right.
Because I'm like, we can do this. And so then when I was learning under your brother, getting the certs and all this, and it was always it was like we were never really good enough or approved of. And it was like this chip on our shoulder and my shoulder. And I'm going to show you, like, you're not going to break me. So if I got to go set up 100 foam rollers, I'm going to get that done. I'm going to put the bands in this way. I'm going to do it this way. And by the time you can even say anything, I'm going to be back in the rack, and I'm going to have all metrics out there. I'm going to have every linebacker, every DB name, boom, 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 boom. So that's where, like, when I was going through it, like, that's how I felt at my experience coming up. And because of that, and the chip on the shoulder and the back against the wall mentality, it goes back to being authentic.
Right.
That shit has never left us. Like, dude, we got John Rambo in here. We got all this stuff is because, we live by the line, like, in whatever situation. It doesn't have to be Wyoming, whatever, they drew first blood.
Right.
And that's how it always is. And when you cross that line, we're the last people to piss off, because when you piss us off, if we need to be pissed off, we're going after this. We're going after Houston. We're going after, James Harden, DeAndre Hopkins taking over the city. Now we got the gym. Okay, we're going to do supplements. And after the supplements, look how great God is. Got the supplements. We're about to go get our own gym, the next gym, to be able to have everything there, our storage and everything. So that's where, like, he's saying that with that. And in my experience too at Wyoming, because I know we didn't ever get to interact as much. You kind of saw me setting things up and coming back.
Right.
But we're here now.
No, I think from my perspective, I think it goes back to me being around you guys, because I was 23. Even like if you go back to like Freeman, Freeman was my GA, Ryan, and all those guys, and I did not want to treat GAs lesser than what I was, right? Or thinking like just because I'm a position coach, I have a whistle, I have a room, because you can learn from anybody, man. And just seeing you guys and observing you guys, I think it goes back to like you guys are being authentic. You're wanting to help these players have success. You see that. And it's like, and the players gravitated towards you.
1,000.
So at the end of the day, when you can see that, and I can observe that as a coach, it's like, man, these guys got something a little different. I don't know if you remember, we went to Jeffrey's and had lunch there or something. You kind of gave me, it's that little restaurant in there. And like, I can't remember why. I think it was on my way out, or I can't remember. But we talked more about how you guys came up, like how you guys grew up. You told me about your family a little bit more. So just getting to know y'all's story even more, that it started to click even more for me. Like, okay, these guys, they have big goals. They have dreams. And so I always thought, one, we had a good staff. Was it perfect? No. But at the end of the day, when you have individuals in there, you got to use everybody as a resource. And a player might hear something better from you than when it comes from me. I might, and I got better at this as I left Wyoming, because and I realized I do think I treated the GAs and student assistants well, for the most part, from what I can remember at Wyoming. My mind is kind of, lapses here or there. But I know when I got to Oklahoma State, I worked with a guy with the receivers, and we would allow our GAs to run the video. So we'd be done with practice, and this guy had some NFL background. His name's Casey Dunn. And I learned a lot from him, in a lot of different ways. But one of the things I learned from him was, hey, empower this person, because they want to be in the seat that I'm in right now. Yeah. How do I get them there? Well, he's got to run the clicker every once in a while. So we'd say, hey, whoever, run the one-on-ones today. So I want you to break down all the wideouts. So I started implementing that with all of my student assistant, GAs, younger coaches, because I don't have to be up at the front of the room all the time. If I have somebody that's capable and they need to train, and how do you learn? You got to make mistakes to learn. You know what I'm saying? And so I got thrown into the fire not having GA'd. So in my opinion, it was all the time learning, but I knew I could learn from you guys too, because you guys might have even had the heartbeat of the team. You might have had the heartbeat of Rob a little bit more than what I would have had, and so we're all trying to pull the chain in the same direction. You're going against the grain if you're, trying to put somebody in a place just because you might have a title or they may be a volunteer or whatever. You got to treat all your people right. And but I didn't know you guys would come to this, right? I mean, who knows? I mean, when you were at Utah, that's probably when we last saw each other. I went up there for a spring ball, or I was up there at one point, and we talked ball. I haven't talked ball much lately, but you were probably one of the last people I like kind of talked ball with in that setting. But yeah, I mean, just seeing y'all's growth, seeing it, like I said, live was better than just seeing it on social media, right? Because, you get to see your people, man. And I know we're going to work out tomorrow morning. Normally I'm outside working out. you know. But I'm gonna get in there and get after with you guys, and just be around you even more. I want to take advantage of the time that I'm here, and so if waking up early, you got to wake up early to get stuff done. You know, if 8 o'clock rolls around, I haven't gotten out of bed and done anything, I feel like I'm hours behind.
That's why 3 a.m. is so important, because y'all don't know about when it was, we'll go through a little throwback. Where'd they go, Sledge? Those pictures? Where did you just have them? I had them. All right here. There you go. Check those bad boys out. Bring it back a little.
Oh, you brought it back, baby. This is Wyoming Cowboys 2012. It's my last year there. We got everybody in here. This is classic. This is good. Y'all just Google the 2009 to 2012-ish, 13 Wyoming Cowboys. And there's Brandon. You got Conkalongo in here. You got them all. Cody Sutton.
Cody.
That was your project.
Texarkana, man. These
That's
Texas
right.
boys.
That's right.
But,
man.
giving these guys this little flashback before we close it out, it's like, we talked about waking up early, and that's why, we are where we are at, because, 3 a.m., that thing was a thing. And I was riding my bicycle
right
in the blizzards with the snowboard goggles on to get to the rack, and then from the rack, ride my bicycle to the class, to the CR room, and do a full day, and then work out at night, train the guys. We were doing the Tim Tebow stuff. I don't know if you saw that documentary with, what's it called, guys?
I don't remember it.
Swamp Kings. And they have... Friday nights, they would all go work out instead of party. That's what we were doing with Rob and Brett and Luke and these guys. So we were like way ahead of that, and we were all always wanting that moment. So it's like, I'm very appreciative of Wyoming, because one, it brought us all right here. It installed even more work ethic in us, especially when you're having to do it in -20 wind chill. And, you may or may not be allowed to wear sleeves if you're outside for practice or something, if you're crossing your arms. So like, you got to wake up early. You got to work hard. And if you ever want to achieve anything in life, look, man, this is possible. And you never know the route where life's going to take you, because he thought he was going to be a coach and maybe work for the Texans. And you thought your route was going to be somewhere else. And look where you're at now. And look at the love you found in doing the financial literacy stuff. And this blessing has brought you your family, your other family. Shout out to Cash, Kano, and Jen. And you got to work hard and go for it. And that's what we live by. Our mantra is go for it. And, you walked in those doors, you got to feel the energy, and we're going to keep taking on that energy. We're going to keep taking on the energy. And with that being said, since you're here, and I kind of keep messing up the Legends promo, shout out to all of our sponsors, Diane Ginsburg, Sebastian Plumbing. I should know this top of my head. Regal Pools, we give you enough love, man. I can't give you any more love on this podcast. If you're ever looking to buy a home across the street over here, he can build you a nice pool.
Man. Yeah.
And if you're needing a realtor, Phoebe Warren works for Compass Realty. She's a savage in the gym. So I'd go and give him the Legends discount code to close out with.
So new Legends deal. We have worked and worked and worked. We finally established the deal. It used to be a code, but now it's a link. So you'll just type in legends.com/Congo. And that'll get you 20% off. And you can keep using that. So you just refresh the link. You'll hit it and you'll get 20% off. So legends.com/Congo for the best shorts and training apparel in the game. And now they also have ladies stuff that you'll soon be seeing in Congo. On our next drop will be a full Legends collab.
I like it, man. It's like you had that memorized.
Coach, you got anything else?
No, take care of your money. What Marshawn say? Your chickens?
Count your chickens.
Yeah, I think that's what he said. No, but really, I appreciate you guys. I'm glad you guys gave me the opportunity to get on here, this platform. I will be back to hang out. Full day tomorrow for me, Rice University, Jillian Burns setting that up for us. But just sharing the wealth, man, and teaching people how money works.
He may not remember the song, but we remember the song. It's 72-20. We got Brett Smith at quarterback. Boy, he was my quarterback. Dave Christensen closing it out. Congo Subs. It's horsepower, not hybrid. We're going to take this one last shot of this Warrior. We got to get you some. And we got 2 words for you if you're not down with that.
No, I think you got to give him the 3 words for the back of your shirt.
We got 3 words for closing out this outro. Gotta bring the wood.
Bring
the wood.
Trips right, hockey left, go, baby.
That's right.
Signal it in, Fort Verts. You got 6 on the bender, 16 to 6, 616 connection. touchdown.
616. We'll get the side zoom. We got Rob Haran here. We got Dominic Ruffner. We got Brent. Damn, what was it? Brandon what?
Brandon Miller.
Brandon Miller.
That was your guy.
That's my guy.
Shout out to all you Wyoming guys out there. We were there before Justin Allen came. God damn it, he stole all the shine. But thank you for putting on Josh Allen. Thank you for putting on the city in Wyoming. And we're out. Like, subscribe, share.